With me today is producer Alex Armando Torres. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Renzo.
You're a producer on The Beasts We Carry.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this project?
I met Rish Gandhi years ago at the Yonkers Film Festival, um, and we started talking about collaborating, and we've collaborated on a lot of projects. And this was just the next evolution of that. I think a mutual filmmaking friend, Melanie, had challenged us all to write uh, a short story or a short screenplay. And he came up, and Rish came up with this amazing concept of a young uh, South Asian boy who could see the alter egos of people, and I really liked it. And so it was just that natural evolution of the next project. And that's how it really came into being.
Now, you've done producing work for a number of years now, right?
Right, with Reese. Yep, absolutely. I think we met in 2018.
And also your own projects and what have you prior to that.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Yep, exactly. I produce short films, a feature film, all that fun stuff in between.
Now, have you done what some people would call genre film before? I'm not sure how prevalent that term still is these days, but some people would call things that involve the supernatural or otherworldly elements genre film.
Yes, and most of my work has been in the genre world, thriller, horror, sci-fi, fantasy stuff, things of that nature. Yes.
Um, would you say that this is sort of a playground? The genre could be sort of playground or a place for exploration for filmmakers and storytellers working within a more modest budget, ones that don't have the resources that maybe other filmmakers might have, or is it because it's a sort of a flexible sort of area in the way that a lot of other films may not be?
I think as a human species, we are all always curious about exploring our own inner artisticness or um and I think like the genre media is a way of being a voyeur, if you will, into other worlds. I think that's why they're so popular still. And actually, I think they're even gaining in popularity. I think that even if people say they're not creative, I think we all have a creative energy. And tapping into that or being a voyeur and looking at someone else creating a world is always fascinating. I think that's why reality shows are so amazing because or have such popularity because it's not really real. They say it's reality, but it's really not. And it's like pulling back the curtains to like the Wizard of Oz and seeing what really goes on, you know. I think that there's just this need to escape and filmmakers create worlds for us to explore safely and then come back to our own reality.
What goes into producing a project like The Beasts We Carry? What are you some of the things that you have to tackle as a
I,
producer?
I think for me, it's because we are limited in resources, it's literally wearing a lot of different hats. So you're the scout, the location scout, you're the interim casting director, you're really the interim of everything. It's like a jack of all trades, you know, making sure you bring on the right people uh, to facilitate the project getting done. Because at the end, you're kind of like a manager. You're managing every little aspect, creating the budget, figuring, you know, what do you absolutely need for the script, and then deciding, oh, is this going to work? Well, no, we need $1 million. So let's rework this budget so we can get it into something that we can afford. And I think it's just that pulling of different strings and different people and different departments and props and makeup and all that stuff. It's a lot of little things, especially when you're on a smaller scale budget.
Small scale budget, but big ambitions and big vision.
Big ambition. The trick is to make it look like it's $1 million, uh, while you're on $100,000 budget.
Right. I was thinking, I was watching, a few weeks ago, I was watching Blue Velvet. And I was thinking, like, wow, this movie is so amazing looking. And then I thought about it, and it's like, this is just Kyle MacLachlan standing in a field. No, nothing's going on. No effects. No strange location. It's just a man standing in a field, but somehow they find a way to make it look like $1 million.
Yeah, and that's the trick, to make it look like it's $1 million. And I think that that goes really into the story writing, the actors really conveying that story and pulling you in emotionally. I mean, everybody else helps too. You have the oh my God, I'm forgetting the term, but you have the people that the design, the surrounding area, because all that is important to lead to the story, to evoke emotions in the viewers.
Was there something that attracted you to this particular story?
I really enjoyed the fact that you have this little young man who can see other people's alter egos. There was something magical about it. It was kind of like the Sixth Sense, in that sense. Like, he sees dead people, but this young man sees, the positive in people, until, I don't want to give too much away, until a cataclysmic event, and then everything turns. But I thought that I really enjoyed that aspect. For me, that was a little bit original. Not even a little bit. It was original in the fact of how he sees them and why he sees them. Yeah. So I also, as a person of color, because of the fact that you have this 9/11, and it just seems to be this ongoing story where humanity still hasn't learned the lesson of, like, get along, right? This would be such a nicer world if we could just all get along. We would all get further ahead as a group, as a species, as individuals. And I like the fact that you cannot tell this story enough. And this is a unique way of telling that story. And that's what I like.
It seems kind of like a forced to grow up sort of situation. Like you called the main character the a young man, and I was thinking like elementary. You're still a boy at that point, but in this situation, at that point in time in history, yes, this is the kind of situation where a child is being forced to grow up and confront some very ugly things.
Yes, yes. As a child who went to a Catholic school, who was predominantly white, and also I knew I was gay, um, and it was predominantly straight and white. It was very interesting, in that you hit certain things in life where people let you know that you're different, and you don't realize that you're different until someone points it out. And in that moment, it becomes a moment where you lose your innocence, you lose your childhood, because you're forced to now have to you have to grow up. You have to realize that the world doesn't always see you the way you see yourself. um, it's both a good thing and a bad thing, because you actually have to embrace that difference in order to survive. You can't shy away from it. So I did like the elements, where at the end he stands up for himself. And, you know, again, in my own life, we have to do that. You have to stand up to the bullies. Well, you can't let them win.
And I imagine anytime you're doing something, a film project that is smaller in scope, or you're working within your means, it's very much it takes a village to raise a film.
Yes, it takes a village.
Do you have a sort of personal history with genre film, whether it's your own, whether it's your own projects or horror or fantasy films that you personally enjoyed growing up?
Oh, so the very first film that I ever saw, I was 4 years old, and it was Jaws. My older sister, who's 12 years older than me, worked as an usher in, and this is really dating myself because this theater doesn't exist anymore. Back in the day, studios owned the theaters, and this was an RKO studio theater in Fordham. And it was, when I tell you it was grand, it was beautiful. You know, the big spiral staircases that go, that go like that. Um, Red carpeting, gold everywhere, beautiful pictures. I fell in love with movies. Just walking into the theater was exciting. Um, and the very first film I saw was Jaws. And I saw it like that, like terrified, but like still excited, which probably explains why I have both a love and a fear of water. I love being at the beach, and everyone always tries to get me into the water, and I go,
Only if Roy Scheider is there.
only if Rorschach is there, and only up to the ankle, and that's it. And then I learned later in life that some sharks will beach themselves. So now I don't even go in the water. So that was one of my first films, which even now to this day, I still jump at the parts where Jaws comes out at the boat and Roy Scheider doesn't see it and then like reacts. I jump when he jumps, so it's crazy that I still do that. Even though I've seen that movie like a dozen times. Um, Other genre films that I absolutely love. I love the originals of everything. Sequels, it's really like they really got to outdo themselves. But again, dating myself. Coma from the 70s. Loved it. It was terrifying. Pieces, that was a bloody horror thing. Um, I forgot the name of the film, but it was one where the baby is born and the baby is a monster and just kills the doctor and the nurses. And I can't remember it. I can't remember the name.
Changeling?
Was it? No, I don't think it was Changeling. Uh,
Basket Case.
I don't remember the name,
The
but
Brood. A lot of
it was
killer baby movies.
yeah, and then the
Alien.
baby. I don't remember the name, but the baby, the father's like, kill that child, kill that demon, and then at the end, the father feels really bad because he falls in love with his child. The monster doesn't kill the dad, but then the dad has to give up the baby and they have to kill it anyway. But that was a great movie. That was very like the 70s were just great with original horror movies, like very original. And then you got into the 80s where you had Nightmare on Elm Street, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then it almost felt like the genre was starting to get repetitious. And then they came out with Scream, which was amazing, right? It's like, how do you top what was done? And then,
You get Matthew Lillard.
then you have Saw that came out, which was great. And then you had Get Out. Like it just like keeps pushing that boundary of fear. Um, and then, of course, then I got to produce my own horror feature, which was Nemesis, which was great. It's like three killers lost in the woods. I think one of the best compliments I got is that whenever you see a horror film, it always like all the horror always happens at night. And what they liked about ours was that even daylight, you weren't safe. Like the horror happened throughout the entire day, all within like 12 hours. And kind of like the Blair Witch, well, that some of it happened at night, but ours, like all the horrible stuff happened during the day. So even in daylight, you weren't safe. So yeah,
Can you tell us some of the people that you're working with on this project?
yes. So we are working. One of the lead actors is Leo Solomon. Um, I first saw him on Veep with Julia Louise-Dreyfus, and I thought he was really great there. I
A
had
wonderful documentary.
what is and he was really great there. And then we casted him in one of Risha's first short films, Mater Mortis, which he did a really nice job there. And we thought, well, since we're still keeping within the genre of South Asian characters, it would be a great idea to bring him on board. Rish saw him, and I saw him doing Charlie Chaplin on Instagram, and we thought, oh my God, this is kind of weird because we were thinking about a mime and we were like, he would be a great addition to bring him back for this specific role.
And he's done stage work too, no?
He's done independent films. He's done stage work. Surprisingly, uh, I saw him on another TV show, which again I don't know why it escapes me, but it's a very popular series. He was on season two, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was along with Berto Cologne. Um, Hold on, now you're gonna make me look because now I got to remember.
Yeah, I have IMDb on my phone. It's in Veep, Homeland, Blue Bloods, Lie to Me, Can See Me,
Yeah,
Clara.
and he was also in The Night Agent. Haha.
Eh.
He was in an episode of this season two for The Night Agent. So and he's also done independent features, I think in India or somewhere in the Middle East. I remember that. So he is, he's done stage work, he's done TV, he's done film. So he's a very well-rounded actor, very very talented.
I think there's something about stage actors that apply better to creatures or otherworldly beings because they have to act with their body in sort of an exaggerated sort of way that is all out onto the stage. You know, it's all their physicality is, you know, very forward in a way that maybe an actor who primarily does screen work is, you know, they're primarily talking, you know, with other actors. Someone who is, you know, a stage actor, they have to be able to move their body in a way that the people in the back row can see. And so that's why I
And,
think a lot of
yeah,
stage actors are very good at being creatures.
yes, I think that there's something about when you're playing to someone who sits in the bleeder sections, you have to very have a very visceral, evocative kind of performance in order for them to see and hear and feel you. And I think he's a great addition. I think he's going to do a wonderful job. I know he's going to do a wonderful job on this because he has that stage presence.
You mentioned it before, the person reading the script saying that it felt very timely. I was thinking about that recently. I was thinking about that recently when I saw Sinners, which is, you know, a sort of genre film, a sort of a vampire film. And I'm used to see like some of these like horror movies with, you know, smaller audiences, but this was just people getting packed into the theaters to see this movie.
Yeah, I've
And,
heard a
you
lot of
know,
good reviews about it. Yeah.
and it's funny because when you think about it, what's this movie about? It's about how music can connect to, you know, the heritage, to past and present and future. And it's like, great. So how are you going to tell a story like that with vampires? And you know, it shows like, okay, yeah, we can do these things with supernatural elements that let us tell these stories about whether it's cultural identity or who we are and how we fit into the world or don't fit into the world around us.
Yeah, I have heard nothing but good things about Sinners. Uh, and at first, when you see the previews, I thought it was like a demon possession kind of movie, and
I thought the same thing. I
right,
thought
and
the
I was
same
like,
exact thing.
that is the one horror genre that I will not do. Like, as a Catholic, or as I say, a recovering Catholic, um, I don't do demon possession movies only because it's too close to real for me. So I don't do that. But now that I know that it's a vampire movie, I'm like, oh, I'm totally in. I can't wait to go see it because being scared is like being on a roller coaster ride. It's terrifying as you're going up, but then once you drop, you're like screaming your head off. So now I will go definitely see it. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
something about the way those trailers, because I've heard that from multiple people that saw the trailers. They're like, "What's this movie about?" I think it's also because the vampires don't have like the sort of just the more like cliche, like let's just have two pronounced canines and call it a day. They're a
Yeah.
little more pronounced, so they got all these teeth and the red eyes and stuff. So it's not the same. It's not the usual expected visual shorthand.
Yeah.
But here we're working with the beast we carry. Um, there isn't a immediate visual shorthand for what this is. The closest comparison that we could make to something that is pre-existing that someone would be familiar with is sort of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So we are dealing with something that is sort of an abstract concept, but at the same time, it's sort of like the imaginary friend that a
Right.
person might have growing up.
Exactly, exactly. Except those imaginary friends can actually hurt you,
Right.
which is actually another unique thing about the film is that he sees these not even imaginary friends, but he sees their, again, I call him an alter ego, but like who, like what he sees is like the best representation of them, and how it turns into like the worst representation of them. I think, you know, that is a very, I can't wait for this film to come out because I think people are really going to enjoy it because it is so original. Um, I, yeah, I have a feeling people are going to really like the visual aspect of how this plays out.
So, Alex, I want to thank you for talking to us today. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Anything? Well, I wore my little Urbanite Arts and Film Festival for kids 13 to 26 years old. Submissions are free up until May 31st. And that's pretty it. www.urbanitefest.org.
Give me another one where you don't say the date, just in case this gets uploaded later.
Sure. We have a film festival for kids that's coming up this summer at www.urbanitefest.org.
Right,
Is that good?
yeah, that's good. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank you, Renzo. I appreciate it.
and I'll talk to you later. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.